Hello and welcome to my channel Polyglot Reading. My name is David and this is my response video to two New Year related tags. There was one tag, New Year, New Me, created by Kevin from Kevin Tolls Reads, and I was tagged for this one by Daniela from Uncommon Reader. And then there was a variation of that very tag. It was called New Year, Old Me, created by James Ruhala from the channel Quaint and Curious Volumes, and it was James himself who tagged me for this one. So thanks to all the inventors of these tags and for those of you who tagged me. And so there are these two tags related to the new year, one with a retrospective approach back into 2024 and one looking forward into 2025. And instead of doing two separate response videos, I decided to do a combined response video where I intertwine the two lists of prompts because they really can be treated in parallel, and each of the tags may have each 8 prompts, and they are more or less on the same topic but from these opposite directions, retrospective and into the future. And so I'm just going through the prompts number 1 to 8 in parallel. I'm just adding the letter A always to the prompts from the retrospective old me tag and the letter B for the prospective new me tag. So prompt 1A, regrets. What is one book from your 2025 reading goals that you regret reading or that haunts you? So I don't regret having read any of the books I read in 2024, but there's one book that sort of haunts me. It's a strong word, but I felt uneasy when reading it, and I still feel uneasy when I think about it. And it is a book written by the 2024 Nobel Prize winner Han Kang from South Korea. Her book with the title The Vegetarian. And this topic of a young woman with a degrading mental health, a person drifting into delusion, into hallucination, into an almost schizophrenic disease, and also the psychological but also physical violence in her family, her hot-tempered father, who is a war veteran, and literally really when she informs the family of her decision to become vegetarian, he really, literally tries to squeeze meat into her mouth of his adult grown-up daughter, just simply because he can't understand or accept her decision to become something so unusual in this Asian society, like a vegetarian. So this really was a sort of unsettling book, and I have to think about it quite often. It sort of haunts me. 1B, fear. So what is one book from your 2025 reading goals that scares you? Okay, I don't think I'm ever scared by books, but there's one book where I at least feel a sort of awe and respect, and it is the book The Ulysses by James Joyce. I have committed to carry out a long-term close reading project of this novel on my channel as a sort of buddy read project, where every 3 weeks I'll present one episode of this book, and I'm both excited but also feeling a bit the challenge, because every 3 weeks coming up with a new video with really comments and sound explanations of another section or episode of this very demanding novel. So it's not scaring me, but I feel this. I feel challenged by it, and some sort of awe and respect that book. Prompt number two, 2A, penitence. What is the one book on your 2024 reading goals that you feel guilty for not reading? Sorry, I can't answer that one properly, or I should answer none, because I don't have reading goals of that type in terms of a fixed list of titles of books that I want to read. I do plan very few long-term reading projects like the one I just mentioned about the Ulysses. But apart from that, I'm really the classical mood reader. I don't know what I will be reading next week or the week after, apart from a very few selected books that I'm stretching across the whole year for these long-term reading projects. I don't know. So there was no book on my 2024 list that I feel guilty for not reading. 2B, patience. So what is the one book on your 2025 reading goals that you want to start immediately? So Now I'm starting to contradict myself. So I have one book on my list that I want to read next, but it was decided on a mood, more or less. On my channel, I just decided 2 days ago that on my channel I'm also going to start a second long-term reading project to broaden my very limited knowledge of science fiction literature. So I'm going to read all books on this famous David Pringle's list of the 100 best science fiction novels. While I'm going to read them, there is two German booktubers who are reading all the novels in chronological order, and I will do just the reverse to add some variety to this program. So I will read them in reverse chronological order. So the first one to start with will be number 100 on the list, the Sprawl trilogy by William Gibson, also known as the Neuromancer trilogy. And I'm eager to start immediately with the reading, but I can't. I have ordered a nice edition of all the volumes, but I still have to wait for it to be delivered. I hope it will arrive next week. Prompt number 3A, the Albatross. Are there any books you had on your 2024 TBR that you are glad to say you won't read in 2025? No, as mentioned before, I don't have that sort of structured TBR list. 3B, growth. So what book last year pushed you to reflect and or grow as a reader? So that's a very simple, clear answer. Definitely it was the novel The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. This has been the most intense and also most rewarding read of 2024, and it still continues to be so. It extends in 25. So as some of you may know, I have a secondary channel. It is called Thomas Mann Project, where I already have the very type of long-term close reading project, as I mentioned for the Ulysses I have, but this one started in 2024, and it is about Thomas Mann's novel, The Magic Mountain. So, and reading a book that way, only about 30 pages a week, and then preparing a video with my observations and my interpretation on each of these sections. This is a completely different reading experience. It really changed the way I'm observing little details in the writing style, and that extends also to my other reading now, and how the attention I pay to narrative tricks and means, and to references and allusions to mythology and other cultural phenomena. So this is really a book that had helped me to reflect and to grow substantially as a reader. Number 4A, pruning. Have any 2024 books led you to reconsider any long-term reading projects? Yes, I reread some classics of the early science fiction literature, so mostly novels by the French author Jules Verne, and one novel by the Canadian writer Emily St. John Mandel, her novel Station 11, and this triggered my interest in science fiction. And I noticed that I really have a very, very limited knowledge of science fiction literature, and this was the starting point for my idea to start this long-term reading project of reading all the 100 novels of the Pringle list, the project that I mentioned earlier. So, and number 4B, what is new paths? So what is one author you plan to try for the first time in 2025? So there is a very recent discovery, and it's actually not just an author, but also a genre I haven't read so far. In fact, I don't know whether this genre exists as a genre so far. I haven't heard of this until recently, and this type of book exists. I have just started to read the works by a writer called Susana Imaginario. Susana is a writer of Portuguese origin. She is now living in Ireland, and she's writing in English. And I think what she is writing is sort of fantasy, but it's defying the usual fantasy subgenres. It's very particular. Her stories are allocated in a world, in a universe where the gods and semigods of ancient Greek and ancient Roman mythology are mixed with the ones from the Northern European mythology, but all this takes place in a so-called timeless universe where also many modern and science fiction-like technical innovations are possible. So the monster, the Minotaurus in the Labyrinth on Crete, uses a dynamic, an electric torch to find its way through the labyrinth and things like this. And I think she is not very well known yet, this Susanna Imaginario. She is a self-publishing author, so she hasn't been picked up by the great publishing houses yet. But I think she merits a lot of more attention. I've started reading some of her works, and I really got hooked. So this is a completely new author and subgenre I want to discover this year. Prompt number 5A, Lying Fellow. So what is one author or genre that you're taking a break from in 2025? I think I'm going to take a break from the American postmodernist authors such as Paul Auster and Thomas Pynchon. I read some of the works in 2024, and I also made a special video about Paul Auster's New Year trilogy. Um, and on the one hand, their works are fascinating from the intellectual structural point of view. But to be honest, at least in the books that I have read of these authors, I got the impression that there's too much fancy experimentation with innovative narrative features, and too little captivating actual content and substance beyond the fancy structural stuff. So I will take a break from this sort of literature for 2025. 5B, self-care. What is one book and or series you revisit for comfort? Difficult to mention just one book or series. If I'm looking for comfort, I usually revisit some Victorian writers such as Dickens, Trollope, George Eliot, Thomas Hardy, or if I'm looking for something lighter and in my mother tongue, German, I read some of the funny novels by the German writer Walter Mörs, many of which are also available in English translation. And you won't regret giving it a try, for example, to his masterpiece, The City of Dreaming Books. By the way, I also did a review video on that one, and also in English. Okay, so that's my self-care retreat area. Prompt number 6A, The Scapegoat. Are there any formerly favorite authors that you're not going to read in 2025? Yeah, I think I'm not going to read or reread anything by the German author Arno Schmidt this year. This was a highly innovative, grumpy German author, mostly active in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s. And there was a period when he was one of my favorite German authors, but his later works become a bit repetitive and excessively fixated on the same old topics again and again, the same narrative concepts he has been using in many books. And so I think it's time for a break. Prompt number 6B, Forging Ahead. What is your favorite debut book or first book in a series you read last year? It's not part of a series, but I think it was a debut or the first book by this author. At least it was the first book of this author that I've read. And I'm talking about The Hearing Trumpet by Leonora Carrington. I came across this book thanks to a video by Heather on her marvelous channel, Heather Reads. Please check it out. And wow, this really was an outstandingly innovative and funny book written by a female author who, in her primary career, was one of the most important female surrealist painters. But she wrote a little bit and excellently. So it's a highly innovative and funny book, but also with a lot of philosophical depth as well. And I think for anyone interested in more experimental literature, but that is not focused on structural plays, but really is highly entertaining. And for anyone interested in surrealism, this is a must read, I think. 7A, Stay the Course. Is there a series that you started last year that you might complete this year? Yes, there is the Palliser series by Anthony Trollope. I think these 6 volumes here, the series of 6 volumes. And so far I have read all except the final one, The Duke's Children. And I think I'm going to complete this series this year by also reading the final volume of this series. Okay, final prompt, and there's no difference between A and B. So final number 8, breaking walls bonus. Do you have a non-book related goal for 2025 you wish to share? Actually, I have at least 2 non-book related goals. I've already talked about the first one in one of my first videos this year. I want to improve my fluency in French. I can already read in French and do a little small talk conversation in French, but by mid of the year, I want to have improved my fluency in a way so that I can start making at least short videos about books also in French language. Okay, so this still is somewhat book related. And the other one isn't. I also want to, this year, I want to cross Sicily on my mountain bike from the very western point, Trapani, to Messina on the northeastern end. And I'm currently doing all the detailed planning, studying maps, and looking for suitable, lonely, single tracks in the mountains on this island, etc. So this is also, all this preparation is also always a lot of fun for me. I usually enjoy this planning process of my mountain bike tours a lot. It's half the fun is in the planning. Okay, that's it. Thanks again for the inventors of these tags and to James and for Daniela for tagging me. I hope you have enjoyed my replies, my response to this tag. Hope to see you next time for one of my upcoming videos, and have a great reading time. Take care. Bye bye and ciao.